Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. I want to talk about Deepseek, TikTok, and fear. By the way, I have a technology background. I also have a real estate background. I have a background in finance too, okay? So my tech background, I've got an undergraduate degree in computer science from UC Berkeley. So this is a tech subject. It's also a finance subject because the stock market really took a beating today. So I'm qualified to talk about this because, like a lot of you, I have investments in these tech stocks. So I'm going to resort to looking at my notes a couple of times through this. So bear with me. AI was mainly developed in the US. Back when I was at Berkeley, I actually worked at ICSI on neural nets. At that time, that was the state of the art for artificial intelligence. And so I'm very familiar with the training process that goes on to train AI systems so that they become useful. And that's kind of laying behind the story that came out today that is not really being made clear. So I wanted to make this video to sort of explain things a little better. At the end of this, I'm going to present something that very few people know that is very interesting about China's development of AI. That hit the stock market today. So stay tuned for the end of this. It's not written down. I ran out of room. So AI was mainly developed in the United States. Everyone pretty much knows that. It has spread to the UK and the European Union. That's part of the West. The US trusts those countries to share technology. They do not share technology to the same level with the Chinese because of the the Chinese Communist Party. Basically, they're not quite. They're sort of like co-opetition. They're competitors, but they also cooperate. So we're not at the point of having totally normal relations with China. Not yet. Hopefully that will change in the future. The US blocked China from buying artificial intelligence chips, computer chips. And China is striking back. They are concerned about being left behind in artificial intelligence. This is another case in technology where the US is sort of leading the way, and China was sort of kicked out of the room and the door was closed and locked. So they made a claim that they're able to train AI systems 95% cheaper than what the US does. Training means sort of like programming an artificial intelligence system. It's not quite the same as writing software. It's a little bit different, but basically the end result is the same. Training an artificial intelligence system makes it become more useful. China's made a claim that Deepseek can be trained 95% cheaper than what the US has. So here's what's going to happen. The US will try to reproduce that claim, the 95% cheaper. They're going to try to reproduce it. If no one can reproduce China's claim, China will be seen as exaggerating. So there's something to be said about China's desire to save face. There's this idea that China does not like being embarrassed and they refrain from things that would bring embarrassment to their country. That belief is no longer true. COVID was made and released in a Chinese lab. So they have changed their country's personality in a way. They no longer are afraid of looking foolish on the world stage. The COVID virus that was developed in China and released in China blew that away. So China is not above this sort of, this is a possible spoof. This may not actually be true, and I'll go into why. So why would China do this now, right? Because the stock market sort of really took a beating today. China released Deepseek sort of during last week. It was there's two things. It was Trump's first week in office. And number two, U.S. technology earnings are being announced starting this week. So if your intent, if you're China and you're resentful that the latest cutting edge technology is not being shared with you, this was the perfect time to lash out. This was a perfect time to try to get back at the U.S. for not sharing the latest cutting-edge AI tech. Trump's coming into office, and the tech earnings start being announced this week. So China has come out and said that they can develop AI systems 95% cheaper than the U.S., right? It is unlikely, it's highly unlikely that the U.S. missed a chance to do it 95% cheaper. It's just really unlikely. And the reason is, it's not just OpenAI in the US that's developing artificial intelligence systems. Google is also. Google is huge. Elon Musk has his own AI system with his companies. Apple is working on it. So there's a lot of players, and it's highly unlikely that the place where AI was developed in the US missed a chance to make it more efficient. It's just extremely unlikely. So even if Deepseek AI is a bit faster, a little bit more responsive to users, that says nothing about their claim that they got their system that way 95% cheaper. They're not necessarily connected at all. Even if Deepseek is a little bit faster, a little more responsive, that says nothing about their ability to get it that way 95% cheaper. There's just no connection between those two. In other words, we're casting doubt on the claim that they're able to develop, to train their AI systems 95% cheaper. So here's the expected outcome. The US, the UK, and the EU are now beginning efforts to reproduce that claim, the 95% cheaper AI system. Right now, they started working on this. In the US, in several places, in the UK, in the EU, in several places. China has not disclosed enough explanation of their AI training technique, their software, and their hardware. After I work through this material on the board, I'll tell you something about this that will be very surprising and very enlightening. And it might shed light on what's actually going on behind the scenes. So it's quite possible that because Trump has just come into office and China's pissed off that they've been cut off from the latest AI technology, which was developed in the US and is being held back from them, and tech earnings are being announced starting this week. It's quite possible this is a fear, uncertainty, and doubt move, a strategic move by China, because the U.S. doesn't trust the CCP and the Chinese government. There's just a lack of trust there. The COVID issue kind of started us down that path in a big way because it hurt a lot of people, and not just in the U.S. It hurt a lot of people all over the world. So just to reiterate, China has made this claim that they can do things 95% cheaper. They're resentful that the U.S. is blocking them from the latest cutting-edge AI technology. So this could be a fear, uncertainty, and doubt effort by China to, because if you think about it, you might say, well, why would China do that? Because they're going to be embarrassed when it comes out that they're actually not able to, that no one's able to reproduce that claim. China will look bad. Well, they don't care about that. They came out with COVID. They developed COVID and released it from a Chinese lab. They don't really care if they look bad. Their intention is to create disruption and to cause problems. And it's also possible that because stocks really tanked today, that was a money-making opportunity that only they knew about in advance, and that they've been taking advantage of that in the short period of time that DeepSeek has been released. Because no one really expected that to show up. So let me now tell you something that is not widely known. And this is where I'm going to go to my notes. Before the U.S. started blocking the latest AI chips from going to China, a Chinese researcher acquired a large stockpile of NVIDIA AI chips. And the same type of chips are now banned from export to China. So before the ban happened, a Chinese researcher collected 50,000 pieces, 50,000 AI chips, NVIDIA chips, and is using them. So it's possible that DeepSeek is based on NVIDIA chips that are now banned. Someone in China is in possession of that large, it's a huge quantity of AI chips. So it's possible we're dealing with our own technology here. That's what a lot of people really don't know. So I have a sneaking suspicion that because Trump is coming into office, and because this is tech earnings season, and because China is resentful about being shut off from the latest AI, that they are striking back by making this announcement, and they don't care if they look stupid later, because they already look stupid because of the COVID issue, because they created and released COVID. They don't care about saving face. Their intention is to possibly seek revenge. So I'm not going to be surprised if the US, UK, and EU are never able to reproduce the 95% cheaper claim that China has been making. I doubt seriously that all these researchers would somehow fail to miss that opportunity. I know something about tech. Some things become obvious. If it was just a 10% improvement, right, you could say, well, okay, maybe you could miss a 10% improvement, but not a 95% improvement. It would just be glaringly obvious that when you're developing the tech and training that we're overlooking something, and here it is. It would just stand out. It would be too obvious to miss. So what's going to happen with TikTok and DeepSeek? This is going to, if this comes out that this was bogus, a bogus claim, if no one can reproduce it, it's quite possible this will drive a further wedge between the U.S. and TikTok. This is possibly going to result in, this is one reason I think China really made a mistake with, if their intention was to actually sell a U.S. version of TikTok to the U.S., which I don't think they actually want to do, but if that was their intention, coming out with Deepseek right now, when Trump is new in office and tech earnings are coming out, when it can be perceived that they are striking back at us, it was the worst move for TikTok, because that's just going to drive a wedge between the U.S. and the Chinese government. It's likely that the U.S. will decide, China is not playing nice here, and we're going to ban everything. We're not going to, because the truth is, if you've been listening to the news, you probably know that U.S. financial institutions and probably all institutions are not going to allow use of Deepseek. They're going to rely on U.S. AI, even if it is, if it comes out that, okay, maybe it's a little slower. It doesn't matter. There's no way that U.S. organizations are going to use a CCP-controlled AI technology. I think Deepseek and TikTok are going away. I think they're going to be eliminated from the U.S. It's possible that China has never really intended to let anyone in the U.S. buy TikTok, the U.S. version anyways. I explained a reason for that in one of my other videos. If you want to look for that in my channel, I mentioned TikTok in the title, why TikTok is not going to survive the 60-day holding period that we're in now. I don't think China wants to release the source code to a U.S. owner, because it will prove how the CCP was using TikTok for data collection. I don't think that China will. But in any event, Deepseek and TikTok are probably never going to take foothold here. If this had been a technology from a trusted partner, maybe it's a different story. But the problem is, the big superpowers are they getting along perfectly? No, they're not. Russia, China, the United States, India has issues with China. So I think there's just politics involved, which is a shame, because we all share the planet, right? It's really a shame that we're not sharing stuff. But if we can't agree on certain things, and I guess it's inevitable that these kinds of things happen. But I think Deepseek and TikTok are out of here. That's my prediction. And once it becomes clear that no one in the US, the UK, and the EU can reproduce this claim that they can, if they're never able to get close to 95% cheaper, all the tech stocks that tanked today are going to come back. They'll come roaring back. So right now, China is not disclosing their explanation of how they pulled this off, right? So the fact that they have NVIDIA chips, a huge stockpile of NVIDIA chips, likely means that's what's really going on behind the scenes, that they're relying on the same chips that our tech companies use. And we'll see how that turns out. But I think this is a fear, uncertainty, and doubt thing that China has done here. So I hope that was informative. If you have any questions about the tech, I'd be happy to try to answer them. And you can ask those in the comments. And I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.